What was your final fudge you to a boss you didn't like?
I worked at a dry cleaner for a summer. Front desk, cash under table type of job. I worked 50 hours one week and he told me he'd pay me time and a half for the OT. I go into work on payday and my cash envelope is not in the drawer. I called him and asked about it and he told me he couldn't pay me for my work yet. I kindly informed him that I was taking the money I was owed and locking up the shop and left. On my last day at the bowling alley, I sent an email to head office detailing all the shit he'd been up to, but everyone was too afraid to report, including trying to fire someone when he found out she was pregnant. A big no-no in my country. I heard later that the next day, regional manager and a couple of executives turned up for a surprise inspection. He's found in the office, having backed a 16-year-old female colleague in the corner, screaming at the top of his lungs, with his big red vein-throbbing face touching hers. She was distraught and obviously crying her eyes out. Manager was escorted off premises there and then, and never heard from again. I was thinking about quitting but has holding back. I scheduled a vacation with 3 extra days. It was a once-in-a-lifetime type of trip. He rejected my vacation request. I thought about it for a couple of hours, went to his office and told him I'm taking the trip no matter what. The next morning, the boss met me at HR and gave me a formal written warning. I responded by giving him my 2-week notice. They apologized and tried to convince me not to leave, but it was too late. I ended up quitting one job because a boss wouldn't give me time off for a vacation that was planned 9 months in advance. He ended up blacklisting me and gave me horrible references, keeping me from getting any jobs for about a year afterward until I found out and called them out on it. That guy was a petty garbage human. I worked at UPS for a few months, and when I went to make an unpaid time off request, they looked at me like I was crazy and said, "We don't do that here." That was my last day. My boss and I had butted heads a few times after she took over the office. After finding a much better job, I handed her a list of my job responsibilities, which she asked for because she didn't understand what I did there. "This is too much. We'd have to distribute all this to like 4 different people." And I said, "Yee," and walked out. Spoiler, she didn't do any of that and was fired less than a year later as the office was falling apart. Not me. One of my coworkers, he was running a whole dept by himself. He was dying over in the other building. It was originally a 3-person team, but one left. They never filled the spot, then 2 years later another left. And he said, "Nah, it was too much before, but we can't function like this." That went on for another year while he carried the whole building. They eventually accused him of stealing after 20 years of working for the company. He denied it, until they put him in a room being grilled by a loss prevention officer, and he just screamed at them, "Fudge this," and "Fuck you. I've been a loyal employee carrying the whole PDI body shop building for years, and you ignore my needs. I'm out." Threw a finger in the air and peeled out of the parking lot. A ton of BS happened in between, but 4 years later, and there are now 4 or 5 people over there because that's how many it took to replace them. My first professional job, I gave my 2 weeks notice. I had been busting my ass under the illusion that if I bust my ass, I'll get recognized, better raises, etc. Rookie mistake. On the Thursday before my last day, I was asked by my boss to write up what I did. 4 pages later, with another 4-page contact list of who my contacts were in and around the company that enabled me to get things done so quick. My boss just stared at me dumbfounded, then stammered on about how he didn't know I was responsible for all these things. Like, "You're my boss. You assigned me half the stuff and I've told you about the other half. Then you had the audacity to not give me a raise and tell me I need to work harder after pulling 80-hour weeks routinely." Just shrugged. I had to turn and walk out because of the huge smile on my face. In the end, they hired 3 people to take up the slack. Could have saved so much by giving me a raise and promotion. Working retail. I quit at the register on Black Friday. I had recently gotten another full-time job and was keeping this retail gig because I liked the employee discount. And due to my other job, this check was pure fun money. All that is to say, I didn't need the retail job. My store manager comes over at hour 7 of my shift with chaos and a line 100 people long and has the nerve to tell me my upsales, fishing for promo signups, i.e. rewards, credit cards, etc., weren't cutting it for how much traffic I was seeing. In front of the customers, I already couldn't stand this so I said, "You know what you do it? I'm done." And then I apologized to my coworkers on the way out. I feel this. In my younger days, I worked retail in a clothing store. It was during college. Obviously, it paid minimum wage. At the time, that was less than $6 an hour. It was a basic job. Stock the merchandise, straighten the shelves and racks, run register. Pretty much the entire staff, including store managers, were around college age. They didn't break our balls, and we did what we were assigned to do. The problem was Derek. Derek was the district manager, and he was exactly the kind of district manager you dread. He shows up and just starts tearing into everything and everyone. Our store managers are now being put through the ringer, which means it's passed on to us. He would yell at me because I didn't greet every single customer who walked in and didn't give the full spiel of "Welcome to store." Today, we are having a sale on cargo pants and button-up shirts. They're in the rear of the store. Please let me know if I can help you with anything. He also yelled that my SPT, sales per transaction, were too low, that I needed to upsell more. He snidely told me, "I'll show you how it's done," and took the next customer. He bombarded the poor guy, followed him around the store, making suggestions, and giving him the hard sell. When the customer left, he left with multiple items, and Derek stood there looking all smug. That's how you do it. Until about 15 minutes later, when the same customer came back and returned everything but one item. When I asked why he was returning them, they made us. He said, "I really just wanted the shirt." Fudge you, Derek. I swear, retail management largely has no fudging clue. Minimum wage gets you minimum effort. If I show up on time, don't call out sick unnecessarily and complete my tasks. I've done my job. You don't get anything more out of me without more compensation. I even had one manager, different job, give me shiz when I told him I couldn't make the mandatory store meeting because I had a college class. He said I needed to get my priorities in order. My friend, I'm a college kid working part-time for minimum wage at a clothing store in the mall. My priorities are exactly where they should be in this situation. I'm choosing the college course I paid thousands of dollars for over the 2 hours of minimum wage to sit in the store and learn that we're selling hats now.